Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us to celebrate Autism Acceptance Month here in the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher. Today, you're going to meet two exceptional young men, Antonio Humann and Ben Levin, who are breaking barriers and achieving great things. Joining Antonio and Ben are their mothers, Laurie Burtis and Susan Levin. We will learn about their lives, their journeys with autism, and their unique talents. Antonio is an artist, entrepreneur, pianist, singer, author, and musician. Antonio's art is a powerful testament to the creativity that can thrive with autism. His work is a journey into the world and a journey into his mind and a celebration of his resilience. Ben Levin is a published author of the multiple book series Nellie's Friends. He also authored Ollie and the Race, and his breakout novel, In the Hole, offers to give hope and inspiration to young adults and their families who had faced homelessness and economic insecurities during the global pandemic. Ben is currently a college student where he is involved in several clubs, such as the Storytellers Guild, the Pillar, which is the college's newspaper, and the Neurodiverse Acceptance Club, which he co-founded this year. Ben's greatest wish is to bring joy through his writing to kids all over the world. Please help me welcome to the Locker Room Susan Levin and her son Ben, Laurie Burtis and her son Antonio Humann. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Alan.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. I think, oh, there they are. Thank you for being here, everybody. Can Laurie and Antonio hear us? They might be frozen. Can you hear us, Laurie and Antonio? Sorry, everybody. Oh, boy. Well, let's try. Ben, I want to start with you anyway. So back in February, you had posted that you had wanted to host an autism acceptance party in April. Tell me what prompted you to share that, and what does autism acceptance mean to you?
That post was actually one of 5 goals I had for this upcoming year with my advocacy and work. And sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah, absolutely. What prompted the post? So it was one of 5 goals.
Yes,
right?
and
what does an autism acceptance party in your eyes look like?
That post was also to commemorate 3 years of accepting my autism. And to me, that type of party looks like members of the autist community and their families and friends spending time together, enjoying each other's company, sharing themselves if they want to with their art or music maybe, and just having a good time together. I threw a similar one 2 years ago, and it was a blast. And the idea actually came from how in my hometown, there has been a couple of Pride in the Park events for Pride Month,
Nice.
which were actually initially started by my town's Diversity and Inclusion Committee. Shout out to a good friend of mine who helped create it, Riley Solomon.
I love that. My town in New Jersey had that has had it for a couple of years, and I didn't realize. And I hope to do, Pride in the Park as well. We have Eric, who is watching today, and he says, I have high functioning autism, sensory processing disorder, depression, and anxiety, and a learning disability. I am 37, born in 87, and a Pisces baby. And he says, Happy Autism Acceptance Month.
Thank you for sharing, Eric. It's always good to hear other people being comfortable sharing about their autism. One thing to keep in mind, though, is functioning labels are not the best thing to use. Instead, it might be better to say that you have lower needs or higher needs, if anything at all. Even using those types of labels at all should be used minimally.
Well said. Sharon Gabay is here. Sharon is an actress who I've had on my show before from The Edge of Night. And she said, so happy to take part in this wonderful conversation. My 33-year-old daughter, Joanna, has autism. She is nonverbal and is incredibly creative. She paints. Love to all of you. I really hope Antonio and Laurie can get back on. I'm sorry their internet seems to be giving them some trouble. Susan, you told me that at 2.5, Ben was having a hard time connecting and was getting stuck. Can you take us back and describe what you were seeing and how long before you received his autism diagnosis?
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, I would say Ben was having trouble connecting, but Ben was actually very comfortable. Um, Ben was very happy, I think, being, kind of where he was, but I wanted more. But it was Ben's communication was not typical. So that when we were around other toddlers, for example, he would more stay within his own play rather than connecting. And yeah, I mean, there was, it's a little hard to speak about Ben, like with you,
With Ben.
here.
That's fair.
But I will just say that,
Start hearing it.
oh, they're back. Great.
They're back.
So, so there were a number of years.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I can't.
Hey, Antonio.
Hi there. That seems to be working great. Can you turn the phone?
Hi.
Can you turn the phone? Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you hear us?
What's wrong with the mic?
I don't know.
Can you
Can
hear
you hear
us?
me?
Can you hear me?
We can. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you. Is it turned on?
No.
Can you hear us?
I'm not.
I'm sorry, everybody. This is what happens on the internet.
That's right.
I'm there, but
Can you hear us?
I can't hear anybody.
Yeah.
Can you hear?
Can you hear us?
No, I can't hear them, but they can hear us for some reason.
Yep. He's got that right. I'm going to put them. I think I can mute them.
Okay. Yeah. So, there you go. So, so there were just like in those days, there were just a lot of like where some things that I think people associate with autism, where there was sort of a level of investment in getting a certain thing to happen. And if it didn't happen, there was some discomfort around that and some tantruming and yelling. And that was a frequent thing because also we were not aware of kind of what was going on and that that Ben's needs, the way they were expressed, were something that like a neurodiverse brain would be very typical. But in our perception, not knowing anything about autism and neurodiversity in those years, we found very upsetting and we didn't know how to deal with it. And then when things kind of consistently got worse and Ben seemed to be not comfortable the way he had been when he was little, like really little. The first few years, he seemed very happy. And then as the years went on, he got, up to like 5 years old, there was more discomfort than comfort. And so we brought Ben to be seen. We had early intervention and ABA and some sort of typical early intervention stuff. And it didn't move the needle when it came to how Ben related to others. It would be like, he could learn skills, but he wasn't really still wanting to connect, and the connections were hard. So that was when we took him to a neuropsychologist. And so when he was 5, he received his autism diagnosis.
Wow. Oh, let me just check on them. Antonio, can you hear us? Antonio, can you hear us? No, I think they're frozen. So that's a long time in between from the 2.5 to figure that out. And I'm sure, you said you didn't know anything about it. Where did you turn for education?
This was, 15 or 16 years ago. There was really very little. There was certainly nothing about neurodiversity. And so there was no understanding of autism as like a particular kind of brain with tremendous gifts and, creativity and clarity. And it was just, it was like something that, you really didn't want. And so there weren't really anywhere, any resources that felt helpful. In those days, it was either the doctor said you can either put Ben on medication, or you can do ABA, or you can try like sort of holistic interventions, diet, lifestyle, detoxification, that kind of thing. And we'd already tried ABA, it did nothing. And I'm not someone who believes in putting children on medication. At least I will just say I did not want to put my child on medication because I didn't feel safe. I didn't know how his brain would be impacted. So that left this holistic stuff. And I could barely boil an egg in those days. So that like healing diets and all that kind of stuff was really nothing I wanted to be doing. But, I just really wanted to give Ben the best shot he would have at being happy in this life. And he didn't seem happy. And so my husband and I decided to go that route. And so we did, the first year after the diagnosis, we did a tremendous amount of kind of therapeutic interventions with diet and gut healing and detoxification. And that did a little, but then we found this other program called the Sunrise program. And that was a home-based intervention that really allowed the child to direct where the therapy would go. And that really was very transformational for us, although the vernacular in those days was very toxic. And I, this is something I feel really deeply about today, is to understand how toxic words like, curing autism and recovery from autism. I didn't know about ableism. I didn't know that I had ableist values. I didn't know that the lens through which I was seeing then was ableist. I didn't know any of that. Honestly, Ben had to teach me that, and a number of other people in the past 5 years. But in those days, Sunrise had that same vernacular around curing autism. And that sounded good to me because we were all pretty unhappy and stuck. And so I think that the language and the paradigm they worked within were really problematic. They've also made significant changes, and Ben actually reached out to them and initiated some change there, which was amazing.
We don't know we know they're planning on making changes, but they haven't made them yet, though they said they could take a few weeks.
Yeah.
Bravo.
I mean, it's
Bravo,
very
Ben.
significant.
Bravo, Ben.
But
I'm fascinated by the ableism conversation because I think that is something none of us are well educated, equipped to speak properly about. I had a young man who is, bound to a wheelchair on my show, who is an incredible activist, who lived in New York at the time, in the city, and how that city is not conducive to somebody in a wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? Like, so fascinated by that. Whole other conversation. You were going to say something. Ben and Antonio's back.
Hi.
Okay, good. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Yep, we can. It's working now, Alan.
Okay, good. Welcome. Antonio, I was going to say that I was introduced to you when you sent me an email back on March 1st. Do you remember what you wrote to me?
Yes. I wrote to you is that I don't let my autism define me.
You did. Absolutely. Laurie, for you, when Antonio was 13 months old, he had a severe reaction to the measles, mumps, and rubella shot. Can you tell us what happened and when you first learned about his autism?
Yes. After Antonio got that shot, he got it in his leg, and he was either dragging that leg or picking it up to move it. And I knew something was wrong. So I called back to the doctor's office, and they told me that bring him in the morning if things doesn't look better. Antonio cried that whole night. He started drooling out of his mouth. He actually had his arm up like he'd had a stroke. So I bypassed that doctor's office and went to a specialist, and they were doing all kinds of testing with him. And they poked him from head to toe with needles to check his reflexes out, because he was no longer able to put any pressure on either leg at that point. And they did a spinal tap on him, and the results weren't going to be back for 2 hours. And they said that I could take him home and wait, and they would call me for the results. And I said no, because we need to do something, because he's getting worse all the time. And so I stayed there, and every test they ran came back normal, but nothing was normal with Antonio. So they sent me to a different hospital, and they admitted him in there. And they basically, what they did was just kind of monitor Antonio to see what was going to happen. And I had said right away that it had to be that shot, because there was nothing wrong with Antonio before that shot. So we stayed there for a couple of weeks and got him out of there and went to Denver's Children's Hospital. They still wouldn't admit to it at that point of being the shot, but they did not know what to do for Antonio. They would not give him anything. They just let him lay in his bed, and Antonio just kept deteriorating more and more all the time. He ended up having to get a feeding tube put in because he was aspirating, because that's part of your muscles. When you swallow, you have to have muscles to swallow, and that was deteriorating. So we went like that for quite a while in Denver's hospital, and then finally got released and went back to the Black Hills. And they let him go to the rehabilitation to get some rehabilitation. but nobody would still admit to me that it was the shot. If I had known for positive that it was the shot, they have Keeley treatment that you can do to get all that out of your system. But I did not know, because a regular doctor does not believe in Keeley treatment. So we just had to wait and see what the damage was. But they didn't give Antonio any hope. They never thought he would walk, talk, or eat if he did survive. And so I did not take that for an answer. I said, no, I'm not accepting that. I'm going to prove to you that he's going to be okay. He's going to pull through this. And we started, once we got back to the Black Hills, I had told them that that feeding tube was never right, because everything was coming out of it. All the food that we put in it would come out. And then when they would come to get him to do therapy, they put him on one of those big balls, and that feeding tube was poking into him, and he would scream bloody murder. And so I told them when I got to the Black Hills, I said, there's something wrong with this feeding tube. I said, we need to check into it. They checked into it and said they had put an adult feeding tube in. That was the problem. And so I said, I prayed about this. I feel good about it. Take it out. I said, he's going to eat. And so Denver wouldn't send the parts to cap it off. So we actually had to write the company and get the parts to cap it off. And as soon as we got the parts to cap it off, he was doing better because it wasn't poking him. And he was, we had to go back to the bottle. We had to go back to baby food. And he did real well with it, though. And then we were supposed to get released on Halloween. And I noticed Antonio was doing something that just didn't seem right to me. He was either dropping his head and rolling his eyes back or lifting his arms up like that. So I got a hold of his neurologist, and he was having seizures. So I thought, well, I wasn't going to be able to bring him home. And that was, a goal of ours. We worked so hard to get that far. And the doctor looked at me and said, nope. He said, I'm going to start Antonio on some seizure medication. I cannot guarantee that this is the right one, but I'm going to start him and let you take him home, because I know that you're a good enough parent that you are going to do what you got to do. If he's having seizures, you'll get back a hold of me. And so we got to go home. It took 5 different types of seizure meds, trying them out before we found the right one. But we did find the right one. And Antonio started, really doing well. But one of my things was that I was never going to have him on so much medication that he couldn't think for himself. So the doctors were really good with that and with me, knowing that I was going to, tell them, I don't think this is the right medication, or I think that he's too sleepy all the time, or, what I felt. So that's kind of how we handled it. And at 6 years old, I took Antonio to Rochester, Minnesota to get a really good checkup. And the reason I did that is because I wanted him to get off all meds. I wanted to know who the real Antonio was without meds. And they did that. They let us come off the meds, and Antonio accelerated. I mean, it was just so awesome to see that. And, he's done really well for his life. He's graduated with the 4.0 average. I mean, I could never be more prouder, you know.
Yeah, congrats.
But I think the key is, when you have a child that has special needs or any kind of medical condition, the parents need to be in tuned and they need to be active in their life. Not only in their lives, but their doctor's lives, their therapist's life, every aspect. And if you can do that, you'll see big miracles happen.
Absolutely. We have a special education teacher watching. Ara says, as a special education teacher, I've had the opportunity to teach autism children who had learned to interact socially and communicate with others and have become academically successful. There is always hope, and it requires a great deal of love and patience. The results are so rewarding. And Susan and Laurie, you are testaments to that, because it is. You have to be your child's best advocate.
Yes.
I think, Laurie, you said to me you were videotaping things. Is that correct? One of you, Susan, or
Yes, I did. I felt very strongly about that, to videotape everything, whether good or bad, so that I can present that to the doctors and to his therapist of what was going on. Because a lot of times it's harder to communicate with them than to show them something. You also need to document everything and date it, because that really helps a lot.
I loved that, because I think that's very smart, because sometimes just us taking care of our own medical needs can't remember what happened to ourselves. So having that documentation for your child, or even for ourselves, I think it's smart. Like, write it down when something happens, because doctors don't know. They have so many other things going on. We have another viewer, Arlene, late getting to the chat. My Megan was diagnosed in 1993 at the age of 3 at Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore. It's a journey of patience and unconditional love. Happy Autism Acceptance Month. Yeah, I mean,
thank you.
incredible. Antonio, you told me that it was your determination, hard work, and God's help why you are thriving today. Can you tell us what faith means to you, how faith has helped you?
Yes. What faith means to me basically is that I found faith through God, and that I'm very thankful, and that God has been able to push me through all my struggles in my life, and that I was able to push through those struggles, and that I have God on my side all the time, and that and that's what my faith is.
And tell them what our saying is.
And that our saying is that there's nothing that's ever going to stop us.
That is awesome. And he is on your side. Laurie, will you tell us about this photo?
Yes, we were sitting at the kitchen table eating breakfast, and I have a Lord's Supper picture above the table, and Antonio was praying to God.
I love that.
And that's something that we do regular.
Yeah, yes.
I love it.
Yes. And the other thing is, there's Antonio is so pure that he has people call him to pray for them when they're going through struggles in their lives. And it's just a miracle, I wish there was more of Antonio in this world, and I'm sure we do. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I think that
Yes.
that we take a lot of things for granted that we don't even realize, what their world is like, and especially people that aren't connected with them. They need to give them a chance. They are brilliant, loving people that we can learn from them as well as them learning from us.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Susan and Laurie, Susan, I'll let you go first. Talk about those early years and fears that you had, of how people would treat Ben and Antonio differently, and how you handled that. And
well, for us, it was a little different because we were doing the Sunrise program from 6 years, almost 6 on. And I just want to be clear that Sunrise was really the pivotal piece in my perception of Ben's process of being able to.
And what is that?
Contact.
Tell us what that is.
So the Sunrise program, it's SON, and it's currently an online program. When we were involved, when we were doing it, it was you had to go there. It was an institute in Sheffield, Massachusetts, Western Massachusetts, and there was a couple whose son, kind of similar to what Laurie was saying, like he was diagnosed with autism when he was 2.5, and they were told, "You have other kids, focus on them. Just put this kid into an institution." And the mother, like Laurie said, "I don't think so." And she took him home and she innovated this program, this methodology where she sat with him day after day after day and just allowed him to be who he was in the way that he wanted to be in this world. And she joined him in the behaviors and the sort of movements and isms and that, that he would do. And he eventually became extremely interactive. Not that that's the goal, but that was, he made connections, and he ended up going to Brown and becoming like an internationally renowned public speaker. And they have this institute where they bring families. They used to bring families there. Now it's online, and it's remarkable. And I went there when Ben was almost 6, and we started this program, and I had very little support because it was very out of the box, but I really just, I think as a mother, you have these moments of intuition and this feeling of like, this is right for my child. And that's what I had about it. My husband was not thrilled. We took Ben out of kindergarten and we did this program for the next 3.5 years. And we organized like people who either au pairs or volunteers and worked with Ben one-on-one and kind of really just let him be who he was. And then out of that work, which is very, it's not woo-woo. It's very practical. They have a developmental model. You mark progress very similarly to what Laurie was saying. We didn't videotape, but you had to really, really keep note of the different levels of interaction and eye contact and focus and things like that. And it really brought Ben to a place where he was able to express himself to us in a way that we could understand what he wanted. And I think things got a lot better. And then we went to a school in New York called the Auto-Spect School. We moved from Boston to New York for this school, specifically for this school. It's a Waldorf school for kids with special needs. And he was there for 5 years. And that was also radically transformational. And I believe all of that work in environments where Ben was just allowed to be Ben, and really challenged for sure, but like really not judged, really allowed. I think that's, a lot of how he became the author and the advocate and college student that he is today. So I didn't really respond to your question.
Yeah, no, but you did. And
But-
you know, I love you sort of nervously said it, like you chose to do this. I mean, a parent, you know, my cousin Kyle has autism. He's not fully communicative, doesn't get to live at home all the time, and that is so difficult on my cousin and her husband. But you can't judge anybody. I mean, you have to do what you feel is right. Laurie, Susan, any of the moms, Arlene, Charlotte, everybody watching. I mean, you really do. You know, you're thrown into this world that is new, and you want your child to thrive. Ben, I'm curious because I know mom's talked a lot about you. Do you have any recollection of those early schools?
Sunrise, Autospect, or which one?
Either one. Do you have any memories from there and how it, you know, helped?
Autospect helped a lot with. It was a wonderful place and it did bring me connections. However, for me, a lot of it had to be earned. Like, I had to face some hard hard stuff I wouldn't have had to face through being homeschooled, and which helped me to grow up and realize more of what I wanted and how to be with others. While all respect was absolutely incredible for me, there I didn't completely fit in for the first 60% of my time there, but in 6th grade, I made a good friend who I had a lot in common with and who's also autistic, Giancarlo, and the two of us became immediately inseparable, and I think that's a huge part of why things got better for me, both because supporting him through his needs helped me open up more and be less focused on myself, and also because I think a lot of my behavioral issues in hindsight came from being alone or feeling like the only person on my side. It wasn't black and white. I do want to say that in order to be fair, but like, I knew I had friends sometimes, and but having Giancarlo there during my last 2 years made a world of difference with the feeling like more a part of things, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say that's a fair
Yeah.
way to put everything, Mom?
Yeah, I think that having a friend and feeling not alone, I mean, that's really changes anyone's life.
Right. It doesn't exactly. Everyone watching, all of us here, correct. Having somebody you connect with changes our personality, changes our outlook, changes our daily routines, changes everything in many ways. Well said, Ben. Well said. Antonio, you know, mom was bragging about a 4.0. Do you have a favorite subject?
Yeah. My favorite subject was that I was excited when they called my name up at our gym triumph. Graduating with a 4.0 average, and I was starting to be one of those people, and in that I was able to graduate with my class, and be able to get out in the public road, in the real world.
What did you
Absolutely.
like, math, science?
And that I loved all my subjects. I like the math, science, social studies, and music, and gym, and just all of them.
That's awesome. Laurie and Susan, for anybody watching, if they, there's one piece of advice you could share that, you think would help somebody, is there one piece of advice?
Someone
I would
told
like
me-
to say, go ahead, Susan. Go ahead.
Thanks, Laurie. I was just going to say, I had a lot of fear and guilt that I was definitely not going to be the mom that Ben needed. I think whether your child has special needs, neurodiversity, whatever, every mom worries, every mom I know worries that fear. But someone told me once, a very wise person, that my job was to love my child, not to fix him. And I know that set me free a lot. And I realized at a certain point that my job was to love, Ben, not some version of Ben, but really to love Ben. And, I love Ben so much that felt like, like once I was given permission to really love the child, my child, and stop worrying about who he wasn't. And then my eyes opened, even my heart opened, my eyes opened even more to like what a gift it was to have a neurodiverse child. But I couldn't see that when I was in my own fear. So that was really helpful to me.
I love that. Laurie?
Yes.
Yeah.
My thing would be that you're not alone in this. You feel that you're alone and you don't know where to go when you first get the diagnosis, even through the process. But there are people out there that will help you. But we've got to reach out, and that's a hard thing. But once you get to that point, you will excel yourself so that your children can excel and learn from that. And
Well said.
document and videotape.
Document it and videotape. Sharon
Get
says
those
yes.
libraries. Do your research.
Do your research. Sharon says to you, yes,
and there's
Susan.
yes,
We
and
love.
there's options.
What was that, Laurie?
There's lots of options. Doctors will throw out maybe one or two options, but there's more than that. That's why the research is so important. And collaboration. Collaboration will get you to where you need to be.
Absolutely. Ben, will you talk about the post you shared on Monday about Ryan Gaynor?
Yes.
And Ben made a post about Ryan Gaynor, but there is a petition with the link up on the YouTube page. So if anybody wants to sign it, you can do so.
For those who aren't aware, Ryan Gaynor was a 15-year-old Black boy who was murdered by police. He was autistic for running towards them with a gardening hose. The murder did not have to happen if they had been trained properly or if they had sent people who were more trained in social work than police. In fact, people who had been trained in social work had been sent to Ryan Gaynor earlier 5 times. It's awful. And Shortly after learning about the murder, I saw another post which talked about ways you can be autistic while also still having privilege, and that resonated a lot with me. I thought a lot last night about examples in my life where being white made me not have to mask as much and gave me the more freedom to make mistakes. That goes for most white people, actually, but when you're autistic and not in control, that freedom is needed more. There was an incident where I was 14. Me and a family member had a physical fight, and I ran away from home. They caught up with me on a neighbor's property. I continued fighting against them, and the police had to be called. I don't know if I'd still be alive if I was black and that had happened.
Wow. Wow.
And I feel like intersectionality is disgustingly underrepresented. Like, people don't realize that when you're looking to help someone in a community, you need to work to make sure that the people you're helping are not just the people who are closer to the more privileged. Like if you're doing something to help gay people, you have to make sure it's not just gay white men, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or and autism is greatly involved in that struggle. Atypical and Good Doctor are the two most well-known shows about autism, and they're both about white, straight, cis men.
Well,
Intersectionality needs to be addressed more. If you
and
celebrate
everybody can
autism,
read Ben's post on Instagram and also sign the petition. But bravo for you for speaking up.
one last thing.
Yeah.
If you're celebrating Autism Acceptance Month, one thing you can do is take the time to research about an autistic woman or an autistic member of the global majority or an autistic queer person. Better yet, don't tokenize the people you research, but try to make an effort to include people in the categories I just mentioned, including the people who fit more than one of those boxes.
Bravo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Bravo. Seriously, thank you for speaking up. Antonio and Laurie, in addition to the autism, you had mentioned that Antonio has diffusive brain damage. Can you tell everybody what that is or what you know of it?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Oh, yeah. Um, um, brain damage is when the sharing or the tearing of the brain's long connecting nerve fibers, axons, and this is what happens when the brain is injured, and as a result, it can cause many different parts of the brain to be injured, to be physically injured.
And how do you feel today, Antonio?
Good.
That's
I
great.
feel that the brain will branch off and relearn. It goes down different routes. So I feel, his brain has rerouted, and that's why he is able to do the things he does today. There is hope. You know, just because you have brain damage does not mean that that defines you, that will stop you in any way. There is a lot of avenues that you can go down. And this is proof right here.
100%. I mean, he is an artist. Antonio, tell us where art started for you. You know, tell us about your work. And I'll while you're talking, I will show some of it as well. And there is a link up on YouTube as well for you to check out. And if you'd like to purchase Antonio's art. But Antonio, tell us about your art.
Okay. About my art, is that I started doing art in 2022, and that and what made me as an artist, and about my work as an artist is that it made me feel creative, productive, focused, and I felt like that was my purpose of doing this artwork, to be able to do this artwork so that I can show people, you know, that are out here in this world today, that there is many opportunities that you can go down, and that there's and that there's a lot of opportunities in this world for everybody to go down. And that's what inspired me to do my art. That's what inspired me to do artwork like this.
Well, there's so much more. I just showed you a little. There's so much more up on Antonio's site. So I hope everybody checks it out and leaves him a message. There's a place where you can leave him a message. Ben, you know, we got to talk because you're going to my university, Fairleigh Dickinson, which is amazing. And you're in the creative writing program. But I love you and your friend, Kata, created the Neurodiverse Acceptance Club.
Neurodiversity Acceptance Club. Sorry,
Okay.
Kata actually recently taught me the difference between neurodiversity and neurodivergence. Neurodiversity is the different types of brains, and neurodivergence is when your brain differs from what's considered normal. Everyone has neurodiversity, not everyone is neurodivergent.
Ah, okay. And what was it like creating this at FDU?
It was Kata's idea. They were way more involved in the process than I was, if I'm being honest, but the two of us worked together. We talked with the woman in charge of clubs, and okay, I don't feel like I deserve that much credit for the work since Kata did the majority of it. But
it's still great to create that at the university.
Yeah, and
a lot of kids showed up then, right?
Yeah, we had 15 people at our first meeting.
Oh my God.
We didn't have a lot of people at our last meeting, but it was Easter Friday, so that's probably why.
Well, that's totally understandable, you know, with Good Friday.
Mm-hmm. And I'm actually excited for this upcoming meeting because Kata has a writing event late this weekend, and because of this, I'm leading the next meeting tomorrow, which I'm actually excited for.
Are you prepared?
Woo!
Yeah.
Oh, Ben.
That's so great. That is so great. And Antonio, you also told me that you are on a journey to appear on American Idol or The Voice.
Yeah.
Tell us what singing means to you, why you'd love to be on those shows.
What singing means to me is that I found my singing when I started singing when I was little, at 5 years old, when I started singing songs like off radio stations and just started singing off of those, and that's what got me inspired to do singing, and I got my inspiration for my singing off of the radio stations, and I'm taking piano lessons, vocal lessons
Wow.
to be productive in the music platform, and be able to get my 60 minutes of practice in, and so I can get my 100 hours to eventually get my 10,000 hours in to be able to do my audition for American Idol.
That's incredible. Do you have a favorite artist, singer?
Yeah, I do, and I grew up as when I was little at 5 years old, and through my whole life, I grew up with James Taylor, and that's my favorite artist since I was little. He's been my favorite artist when I was little.
Who is that?
James Taylor.
Oh, James Taylor.
James Taylor.
Oh, I missed. I heard Taylor, but I didn't hear the James. Oh, wow. Ben, do you have a favorite singer?
It was the Beatles for a long time.
Oh, right. Yes, you were obsessed with the Beatles, right?
Yeah, I feel like even though I
yes.
still love them, the interest has subsided a little in recent years. But I feel like if I had to pick my favorite music, I'd probably pick the music from How to Dance in Ohio, the Broadway musical, which was recently up with actually autistic characters, though I might be biased.
You might have a little bias. Do you have another book in you, then?
I currently have a lot of writing projects I'm preparing for.
That's awesome.
Mostly
awesome.
Nellie's Friend
Nice.
sequels, but there are a few other stories I'm hoping to get around to publishing soon, or get closer to completion. Some I'm currently writing.
Very, very nice.
Alan,
And-
do you have Ben's website on?
Yes, it's up there as well. Ben's website is up there as well. Yes, both the link to his yes, everything is up on YouTube. Antonio, you are a fan of The Bold and the Beautiful.
Yeah, yes.
Who are some of your favorite characters on there?
Actually, I love all the characters on the Bold and Beautiful show on CBS.
That's right, on CBS. Arlene just shared, I don't know if you are aware of this, but Music for Autism is a wonderful virtual concert series program on Facebook. So I don't know if any of you have heard of that.
Okay.
Before I let you go, Susan and Laurie, knowing where your journey began, to see your two young men thriving and in such positive, what Ben is doing on campus, what Antonio does with his faith and helping others who, by praying for them, what does it mean to you to see them this way, thriving?
Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I'm just really grateful because Ben is now not only my son, but he's a friend. And I think he's always taught me a lot, but now there's a level of understanding that Ben has about things that I have yet to learn about that I'm really finding wonderful. And I'm also grateful being the mother of 2 very intense young men who are both now in college. I will say I'm
Two.
excited that I have time for myself, and I am enjoying my empty nest and pursuing my own endeavors, creative and otherwise. And that, like, I think, like, I'm just grateful that for me, like, the kids have always been the priority for my husband and me, and not out of nobility or virtue. We just really just always felt like, we didn't have any other choice because we just wanted them so badly to be able to be happy in this life. And so we did a lot of our work up front, like Laurie, like just really investing. And I'm just so grateful, I'm so grateful to God. I'm so grateful to Ben for all the hard work because he's chosen to work on himself. As he said, this did not come easy.
It did not. You know what surprised me, what he said earlier, and I meant to come back to it, Ben. You said you only really accepted your autism 3 years ago. I was surprised, and I don't know what year we spoke for the first time when In the Hole came out, but
2021. It was
so it's 3. So that's 3 years ago. I didn't realize that it took you.
Yeah, because of the vernacular. I spent a lot. I'm not sure if we've talked about this before, but I spent years because of the vernacular, and I saw myself as subhuman, or I think deep. I don't know how aware I was of it. I think a lot of it was insecurity, which I tended to project on others, like my brother and my classmates, as well as just thinking that there had been something wrong with me because I needed to change it. When I switched schools in 8th grade, and I kept it a secret because I knew most people didn't think you could recover, but also because I just wanted all connections I had with autism removed completely. I was so happy with this. It was like a dream having all these friends, especially hiding my past and having them not know all of the ways in which I'd been messed up as a kid. It was too good to be true because I didn't. The friend I love, I loved my friends, still love a lot of them, and I know a lot of them love me and still probably love me. But having the secret held back the development of a lot of them. And when I realized this in 11th grade, I fell apart. And months after, when I was trying to decide whether it was worth keeping the secret and how to do it in a way which wouldn't make people think I was crazy, but also staying with my truth, a close relative helped me realize that my truth wasn't a truth after all, and that even if it had been, it shouldn't have been because it made autism out to be a bad thing. And it has challenges, absolutely, but with resources and with more effort made to bring these resources to everyone, and another way intersectionality is harmful. Not talking about intersectionality is harmful because people don't talk about how when you're not financially stable, it's harder to find and afford these resources, which can cause more resentment. But
Yeah.
with support, the positives autism brings can be unlocked. And sometimes even without that support, if you just look hard enough, you can try. I was pretty surprised yesterday when I found out that the locker room started on the same day that I claimed my autism, just 1 year apart. But
Wow.
I will never forget what yesterday 3 years ago meant to me.
Wow.
I did it.
Wow, well, we have a very big connection then. April
did.
3rd. April 3rd is a very big day. Wow.
And I did it at a pond where I go to pray. I was scared, but
Thank you for sharing that, Ben, and I'm glad I came back to it. I definitely wanted you know, to give you the
Can I
opportunity.
talk more about it? I'm
Yeah,
not taking
please.
too much time.
Yes.
I was terrified that night, so I like to decide where I'm going to walk when I'm home based on going in the opposite direction of cars, which I thought could remove some terror by making it more like maybe it will happen tonight. But then when a car went in the other direction, went in the direction of the pond, which would have meant not walking in that direction and probably not posting, I thought, no, I waited way too long. It's time. I will never forget what it was like to take that victorious walk home and just feeling the secret off, a huge weight off my shoulders. Twice I told my mom, I'm free.
That's
And
amazing.
I just
Amazing.
want,
Yeah.
the reason I'm as involved as I am is because
Yes.
I don't want anyone to ever feel that shame again. It's enough that I went through it, and even though the vernacular is changing,
Well, Ben,
I'm self-conscious about saying this because I know it may sound a little over dramatic, but I feel like in order to help make sure no one has to go through this again, I need to keep talking about my story, just because when we forget, we
Yes.
repeat our
Yes.
mistakes. And
yes.
I feel, and
It's so true. I mean, all of us have a story, you know, talking about shame, Ben, you know, I grew up gay in the 80s, and, you know, that's not easy. And there was, you know, many gays have a lot of shame. LGBTQ plus have a lot of shame. And letting go of that shame definitely gives you license to be free. Benjamin, who is watching, says Antonio has a beautiful smile, and Ben, both of you are two truly amazing young men. I'm in awe of their courage and dedication. True heroes. Laurie, I did not forget you. I wanted to hear from you on seeing Antonio thrive the way he does.
Okay. I'm really happy with Antonio. He has worked really hard for where he is today. He's truly a blessing, and he has touched many people's hearts. And for an example, he does entrepreneur classes on Mondays and Tuesdays, and he does inspiring quotes for them.
Yes.
So those go all over the world. And,
That's awesome.
they have told Antonio how happy they are that he has joined the class. And they actually, Jimmy is one of Antonio's mentors. And then we have Dexy and Maxine that has really helped Antonio in ways with his adventures, with his art and stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to get it up and going, people. We're going to do Christmas cards and sell them by the box here pretty soon too,
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
So
That's
we've got
awesome.
a lot of things, that's going to happen, and but I really feel that it's Antonio's, will to keep going. I think we feed off each other.
Yeah.
We're a team.
Yeah.
And
that's,
you know what?
his journey
Having a team is incredibly important.
Yes, definitely. And I
So-
think, his journey is a journey that we have went through that I would never, ever turn away from. He is a true blessing in every way.
Beautiful. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think one of our adventures is getting our story out there, our journey. We're going to write a book, and that'd be great if Ben and Susan could do that as well.
Yes.
Because a lot of people can learn from us
Yeah.
and know that they're not alone and reach
Absolutely.
out.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely.
It's a true testament.
Yeah.
Thank you all so
We're
much.
working on it.
Yeah.
Good. Stay in touch, okay, everybody?
Of course.
You guys.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I also want to tell you all about a new film that opens on May 31st. It's called Ezra, and it stars Bobby Cannavale, who portrays Max Burnell, a stand-up comic navigating life with his autistic son, Ezra, played by the incredible William A. Fitzgerald. The film is directed by Tony Goldwyn and explores their relationship as they embark on a changing road trip. I want to thank Ben and Susan Levin and Antonio and Laurie for spending this hour with us and sharing their stories. Please join me tomorrow when the iconic Deirdre Hall from Days of Our Lives joins me live. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And I hope if you liked today's episode, you click the like button. And don't forget, you can stream audio versions. Just search The Locker Room on your favorite streaming platform. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Antonio and Ben's story. And their links, their websites are up on YouTube. Please check them out. Have a great evening, everybody. I will see you tomorrow afternoon.